guy
this
says,
is America.
and then
This is America.
Hold it. Listen to me, because you'll learn. All right? Thank you.
The nation's still buzzing about my confrontation with the View ladies.
It ended up with Joy and Whoopi storming off their own show, which you think people named Joy and Whoopi would be more cheerful, but...
Well, Bill O'Reilly did something on The View today. He showed up, yeah. Very tense, very tense.
Over the Ground Zero mosque controversy.
Muslims killed us on 9/11.
No, that
We will have a follow-up report.
You have just seen what should not happen.
If we're being politically correct and there's nobody in the community, you know, or it's a very small percentage, that's ridiculous.
The town of Cambridge, Massachusetts tells public school children they now have to celebrate a Muslim holiday. Glenn Beck has some thoughts on that. Caution. You are about to enter the no-spin zone. The factor begins right now. Hi, I'm Bill O'Reilly. Thanks for watching us tonight. A view of the view, one day later. That is the subject of this evening's Talking Points memo. There is a much larger issue in play than the discussion that took place yesterday on The View. We'll get to that in a moment. But first, the nation is talking about my debate with the View ladies over how to describe and process the brutal attack on 9/11/2001. After Whoopi Goldberg and Joy Behar walked off the set objecting to my statement that Muslims killed Americans on 9/11, the country became fully engaged.
Everybody's talking about making the Palestinians and the Israelis sit down and talk in the Middle East. We can't even get the ladies of View to sit down and talk with Bill O'Reilly. You see that today? Well, Bill O'Reilly did something on The View today that made Whoopi and Joy walk off the set. He showed up, yeah. Very tense, very tense.
Now, this is a classic liberal versus traditional situation. I believe there is a problem in the Muslim world. If you look at the polls taken over there, most Muslims have a poor opinion of America. Therefore, many of them are inclined to sympathize with people giving Americans a hard time. In some cases, that includes violent terrorists. Right now, the United States is fighting Muslims in Afghanistan, in Iraq, in Pakistan, and we could be fighting Muslims in Iran if they don't stop causing trouble in that country. In addition, the whole world fears Muslim terrorists will murder people in their respective countries. The entire world is concerned about that. So while Ms. Goldberg and Ms. Behar may be offended that I did not use the words Muslim terrorists in describing the 9/11 attack, the truth is there is bitter conflict between the Muslim world and the West. Cliff May, who works for the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, issued this statement about the View situation, quote, O'Reilly says it's inappropriate to build the mosque near the World Trade Center site because thousands of people were killed there in the name of Islam. Two of the women hosts of The View walk off in disgust at this assertion. This is all part of the continuing, rather successful effort to try to completely sever the connection between terrorism and Islam, unquote. Now, Mr. May's analysis is perceptive. The question then becomes why? Why do liberals want to sever the connection between terrorism and Islam? Part of the reason, I think, is that far-left people have always believed it is partially America's fault that some Muslims hate us, that we have exploited the world and we are getting what we deserve. That's the Reverend Right Ward Churchill point of view. There comes a time when the truth must be told, and if people don't like it, that's the way it goes. Anyone watching this program knows I am not anti-Muslim, but you also know that I deplore the continuing terror acts committed under the banner of Islam. Again, if moderate Muslims would ally with the USA, the jihad could not exist. But that obviously has not happened. And that's a memo. Now, for the top story tonight, reaction, joining us from Phoenix, Arizona, Dr. Zuhdi Jasser, president of the American Islamic Forum for Democracy. So, doctor, were you offended when I said Muslims attacked us on 9/11?
Absolutely not, Bill. And I just want to thank you for your courage and really saying what many of us, what I've been saying. We formed our organization because we recognize that this is a Muslim problem and it needs a Muslim solution. It's not my Islam, it's not the Islam I love. My parents came to this country because we were escaping governments that were oppressive, run by Muslim majorities, and we realized that organizations like the Brotherhood and others globally are spreading ideas that are part of a theopolitical movement that endangers our security. And until we recognize it, until we have the courage to name them as, yes, some Muslims, not all, but the problem, the solution comes from within the faith, and we can't fix the problem. And you remember, our founding fathers had the skill of talking about religion publicly, but we seem to have lost that, and now the left wants to use it as a way to get at the right, and we're losing the war of ideas.
Right, and I mean, when I said what I said yesterday, I assumed that most people would be intelligent enough to know that I was saying radical Islamists attacked us. But I did want to get the point across that the World Trade Center mosque was inappropriate because it represents Muslim. Muslims will go there, and Muslims attacked us. That's why it's too close. The wound is too open. That's why it's inappropriate. Not that all Muslims are evil or anything like that. So I assume that people would know that. But they jumped on it. But you said something very, very interesting, and I want you to clarify it further. Is there a struggle in the Muslim world, worldwide, in America and everywhere else, between the Brotherhood and the radicals, the Sharia crowd, and you and your organization? Because we only hear about the Brotherhood and the radical people. We don't hear much from you guys.
That's exactly the problem with, it's interesting. I wonder how many of the ladies on The View would even think about living in a Muslim majority country.
None of them.
They wouldn't even think of it because of the oppression of the rights that exist when these people get in control. And we are having a civil war in which America and the establishment from Obama on down have not taken sides. We don't even want to label it. We're calling it violent extremism. And you can't treat a disease that you can't name.
So
and
the best case scenario for you and your group would be for President Obama to say, I've had enough of these radical jihadists. I've had enough of these Muslim terrorists. I want Dr. Jasser to be part of my advisory committee, to bring you to Washington, to talk with you, to spotlight you as someone who knows the problem and wants to deal with the problem rather than avoiding the problem. That's what I'm hearing you say, Doctor.
Exactly, and he'll see somebody who loves his faith, who's raising his kids to be pious Muslims, but looks at the world through an American lens, not through a Muslim one. We don't want to use ground zero to teach America about Islam. We want to use America to teach our kids about liberty, separate mosque and state, and win that process of modernization and enlightenment that the left doesn't even want to take sides on, and as a result is handicapping us to where you just heard Napolitano a couple of weeks ago say that last year was the busiest year in homegrown radicalism from radical Muslims in America. And that threat's only going to continue to increase until we finally identify that not all Muslims are the problem, but there is a problem that we're denying, we're pathologically denying within the Muslim communities that we need to take sides on through dissidents from Saudi Arabia to Iran to domestically here in America.
All right, now the final question I have for you is, I did not criticize President Obama as much as some other commentators did for his failure to use the word terrorism and all of that. I made fun of him a little bit because I understand the president needs the cooperation of governments like Pakistan and Saudi Arabia and others to fight these terrorists. So he can't be going off and alienating. And I got that. And I know why he's doing what he's doing. But I just think that the more your group and Muslims like you are brought to the attention of the American people, the better. I'll give you the last word.
We just gave a Nobel Peace Prize to a dissident in China who's in prison. Have we ever done such a thing in the Muslim community where we say, you know what, here are some victims of radical Islam, political Islam around the world. We want to identify that these are the people America wants to support, not the ones that help us at the gas tank, not the ones that are part of theocracy in Iran or in Afghanistan or elsewhere, but the ones that are about reform. And I think the left and the right can see that and get past this bickering that is really very myopic.
All right, Doctor, thanks very much. We appreciate it. Next on the Rundown, Bernie Goldberg will analyze the press coverage of the View fracas. And later, Glenn Beck on Cambridge, Massachusetts, giving public school